Sales is psychology and probability thinking if you want to be successful at it. So I discovered something of recent about the power of probability and how to apply it to sales. And in probability, there are three things. You need a sample size, you need a experiment, and you need an event. So I'll explain all of them so you can get it. The sample size is the possible outcome that can happen within a space. I'll give you an example. So let's say, for example, this is my bag, right? And I have 3 blocks inside this bag. And the first block there has a blue color, the second one has a red color, and then the third one has a yellow color. If I put all 3 of those blocks inside this bag, if I put my hand in this bag to pull out one of those blocks, the only possibilities will be blue, yellow, and red. Nothing else. Nothing else. That is the sample size. That's fun. The second thing about probability thinking is the experiment. The experiment is the actual action of dipping my hand in the bag and pulling out one of the blocks. That is the experiment. All right? Then the event is a specific outcome that I'm looking for. So let's say I'm looking for a red block. All right? So if I roll the dice, I'm looking for 6. 6 is the event. The act of rolling the dice is the experiment. All right? And the 1 to 6 is the sample size. So how do you relate all of this to selling? Thank you for asking that question. It is a very, very good question. So for your sample size in sales is the possible thing that can happen in a selling situation. The first one could be somebody will buy your product. The second one could be somebody will say, I'll think about it and I'll call you later. The third one could be, can you confirm if this thing is working? The third one could be, everything is all right, right? The third one could be, send me an email. Those are the possibilities that can happen. That's the sample size, right? The other one is the event. Maybe the event that I'm looking for is I want to close a sale. The event I'm looking for is I want to close a sale or I want to book a meeting. Then the experiment is the very act of picking up my phone and making the call or sending the DM to the clients. Now, in sales, you cannot really control the event, which is the specific outcome that you're looking for, either to make a sale or to book a meeting. You can't really control that. What is it that you can control? You can control the sample size, right? And you can control the experiment. So let's deal with those. The sample size is the human beings that you are reaching out to. If you increase that sample size, you will also disproportionately increase the odds or the probability that the event you are looking for, which is the close sale, you will find it. I'll give you an example. If you are asked to speak at a conference to men and women who are over 40 years old and you sell prescription glasses, and there are 500 people at the conference hall, you know that you have a high probability of selling your reading glasses to a few of those people. True or false? True, because the sample size is high. What about if you are called to speak to just 5 people over the age of 40 to talk about your reading glasses? Yeah, you may sell, but the probability is slim. So because that sample size is small. So can you control your sample size? Yes. So increase your outreach. Reach out to more people. Don't just send 10 DMs, send 100. Don't send 2 emails, send 2,000 emails. Don't go live on Instagram once a week. Go live on Instagram Live 7 days a week. If you increase the sample size, you will most likely increase your chance of success. You know, I was at 2 conferences in London this weekend, and one of them, was at the conference in Dartford, a real estate conference, and somebody paid for 15 of his staff to attend my 5-day Make Sales Challenge. You should check that class out. Link is in the show notes. Check that class out. Now, the reason is because there were over 50 people. The class, all was filled up, and I was a compare. So my sample size was big, so I could convert a few of them into paying customers. So you can control that. What else can you control? You can control the experiments, the very experiment, which is the action of sales. What is the experiment? The actions that you take. And what's that? You can send a different type of DM. Instead of you to send a written DM, you can send a video DM. I'll give you an example. So I had Jimmy Soni on my podcast. You should check that episode out. Jimmy Soni is the guy that spent 6 years writing a book about the PayPal mafia, and all that. I didn't send Jimmy a written text to say I want to have him on my podcast. No, I sent him a video. He said when he saw the video, he just said to himself, you know what? I can't resist this guy. The energy is too loud. So I got him on the podcast and we had a great time. By the way, if you're watching this, if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please click on the subscribe button. Click on the subscribe. If you're watching this on Spotify, click on the subscribe button on Spotify. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, click on the plus button on Apple Podcasts. And if you're watching me on Instagram, please click on add me to your favorites so that you get notified when I drop valuable content like this. So instead of you to send a written DM, why don't you send a video DM? That's an experiment. You don't know if it's gonna work. Just try it. Just try it. Instead of to send a written DM, send a voice note. You don't even know if it's gonna work anyway. So just send it. And that's how you are increasing the experiment. It's an experiment. Have an experimental or a scientist mindset. If you say to yourself, I'm going to test this. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, I will learn why it didn't work and I will improve it because it is an experiment. Remember, it is an experiment. I did a sales conference in London, my first physical sales conference in London. There were 30 people paid for that training. We had a great time. The hall could sit 50 people. I got 30 people. Now, let me give you some context. I do not live in London. I just moved into this country. Nobody knows me in London. It's an experiment. I made money and I learned something from it on how to do it even better and to reduce my costs because I have this scientist mentality, this scientist mindset. You can experiment with the fonts that you use. Maybe change the kind of font that you use for your content. Experiment with your content creator. Just have an experimental or a scientist mindset. Think about ways where you can tweak it, improve it here, improve it there. And when you do that, you are increasing the odds that the specific outcome or events that you are looking for will happen. That, to me, is the way to increase sales and think like a scientist. I call it selling like a scientist. All right, you're not coming into it with a certain level of certainty, but you're just testing, tweaking. Maybe you do your Instagram live in the morning, or you do your Instagram live in the evening, or you go live on YouTube in the morning, you go live on YouTube in the evening. You are just testing and testing. And when you test, you do what they call a post-mortem or a post-action analysis. You now break it down and ask yourself, what worked? What did not work? Why did it work? What can I do better? What can I reduce? What can I stop doing? What can I continue doing? What can I enlarge? What can I compress? That is how in sales you think like a scientist and you're not thinking like someone that says, okay, it is certain that this is the way that it is going to work. For example, even in my content now, I'm experimenting with something. Every Wednesday now, I interview my wife I call it Relationship Wednesday. The first one that we did, by the way, shout out to my son, my 16-year-old son that does all our video recording. That video with my wife has given me 31,000 views on Instagram already. 31,000 views on Instagram because I experimented it and I saw that the market liked it. And guess what now? I have a section on my podcast now called Relationship Wednesday. So have a mind of always experimenting. And I'm experimenting with you right now. Click on the subscribe button because it helps me grow. It helps the channel grow. It helps me to get, more clients. I think I'm going to share one more thing about this experimental thing again before I go. And then I call this episode a wrap of the Paul Fo podcast. I hope you guys are enjoying this. It's about, Carl Jung, a father of modern psychology. And he talks about shadows and projections. Your shadows are parts of you that you don't really necessarily like and you don't like to talk about. It's not that it doesn't that you're an evil person, but your shadow could be your fears, your unbeliefs, your even on your unlived talents. Those are shadows. You don't like to talk about it. They are shadows. And the challenge with the shadow is that if you don't address the shadow, they will run your life and you will call it fate. Then he spoke about your projections. Projections is when you project your shadows on other people, thinking that the person is a problem. Meanwhile, you are the problem. I don't know if you have had those aunties or relatives. You tell them about what you want to do because they couldn't achieve it in their lives. They told you that you shouldn't do it, that you can do it. Really, you're not their problem. They are projecting their shadow on you. Now, how does this relate to sales? If you have a poverty mentality, all right, when you meet a client, you are the one that will be saying to in your heart that the clients can't afford, they can't pay for the product or the service. In fact, you reduce your price so quickly. You give them discount so quickly. You tell them of discount so quickly. Why? You are projecting your shadow of limiting belief, poverty thinking. So how do you address your shadow and correct it? Number one is write it down, because the first step of change is awareness. That's why I'm a big fan of gratitude journaling. Write down your beliefs down, address it, because if you write it down, is the first step of seeing it. You're making the unconscious conscious, because until you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life and you will call it fate. You write it down so you know, because as Carl Jung would say, that perception is projection. Perception is how you see. Projection is like a projector. You are projecting your thoughts. If you see the world as a world where there are no opportunities, that's your perception. You project it on other people. So that's how you correct it. And also, if you spend time with people who are doing better than you, who are more successful than you, it'll help in your perception and your projection. I hope this was useful to you. I'll see you next week, next time on the Paul Fo podcast. Please, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. Click on the link in the show notes and sign up for my 5-day Make Sales Challenge. It's my signature program, and your life and your business will not remain the same again. Let's go.